Hi guys, my name is Roger, and I'm building a mid-engine supercar in the basement of my home. Let's take a look at what I've been working on this week.
Okay, so while I've been waiting on the parts to come in to fix my CNC, and one of the parts did come in, but it didn't fix it, but we'll talk about the CNC in a minute. I've been working on some other things here on the car that I've been needing to take care of for quite a while. And the first thing I've worked on here is the steering linkage where it goes through the firewall. I had a pilot hole drilled, but I didn't have it enlarged to the correct size and location. And I was trying to figure out what I was going to do here for like a bulkhead fitting to seal that off from the weather. And this is what I did. I ordered this bulkhead fitting from McMaster Car, the correct size, and I opened the hole up to where the universals would fit through. And then once everything is installed and connected on both ends, this bulkhead fitting just bolts into place and seals off, so you can see that it's tight around the shaft here. And all of that works when I turn the steering wheel. It keeps everything sealed off tight, and that turned out pretty nice. I'm happy with that. And also something else that I've been needing to do for several months, and I've been putting off and actually kind of dreading it, is I need to move the top shock tower mounts here. The location was not in the correct place. I was making some educated guesses as to where exactly those needed to be, and the rear end of the car was a little low. I wasn't able to adjust it to the right height with the adjustments on the coilover shocks, and I made some spacers to come in here, and with the help of the jack here I figured out exactly how low these shock mounts, or how high they were and how much they needed to be lowered, and I came up with a measurement of 1.25 inches. That's how far off I was. And the front to back location, they need to move forward just a small amount too, maybe a 1/2 inch or so. I'll get an exact measurement. But with these 1.25 inch spacers in here, everything seems to work great. When I jack the car up, the shocks don't bottom out anywhere. Everything clears nicely. So I believe that is the correct measurement. I have ordered a new piece of steel here, which is way too long, but I wanted extra material just in case I needed it. I will have to make new mounts. I have to remove these, grind them off. I'm hoping they'll come off clean. Make new mounts, lower them 1.25 inches, weld them back in. And because they'll be 1.25 inches lower, that'll leave me a good place here to weld in a gusset for strength, because I'm worried this may flex over time and bend. But if I weld a gusset in there, that'll eliminate the chance of that happening. So let's go up and take a look at the CNC machine. Let me show you what I've been doing in the garage into the CNC, and then I'll come back down here in the basement and get started making these mounts. Okay, to start with, in the garage, you'll notice that I've installed a shelf back here along this back wall. It is, I believe it is 40 inches deep and 16 feet wide. It's allowed me to get most of my junk out of the garage floor and up on this shelf out of the way. It's suspended from the ceiling, so there's no posts or anything to try to walk under or work around. And when I did that, I moved my heat box here, this big oven, over to the right some, and it gave me room to move the CNC, which was along this wall, to over here in the back. It gives me room to work in here, walk around the table, and have plenty of room over here. And made a couple modifications to the CNC. The dust collection system is a little more permanent and should work a little bit more smoothly this way than the way I had it before. Well, I finished the new shock mounts, the top mounts here that you see, where the top of the shock attaches, and I lowered this 1.25 inches, and this will allow me to get the correct ride height. I didn't have quite enough adjustment in the shocks to get it to the right place. With the other designs, I made these newer brackets, lowered the bracket 1.25 inches, and by doing that, you can see under here I have good clearance with everything. I still have a lot of adjustment. This ride height is very close. It's just a little bit high right now, but I figure when I put the weight of the body and everything else to finish the car, that it should be a little bit closer than it is right now. It's about 5.5. I wanted it about 5.25 to the bottom of the frame. but I have a lot of adjustment here up and down, so it should allow me to get it exactly where I want it. And I'm happy with the outcome. You can see there's good clearances here around everything. I've stood on the back of the car and worked it up and down, and everything appears to have good clearance everywhere and don't see any issues. The only thing left for me to do is this bolt here goes in the bottom center underneath this bracket. I don't have it installed right now, but it goes in easily. I want to go ahead and add a bolt here in the top center, and I will drill that through sometime. It requires some very careful measuring. The distance down from the top is very critical to get it just under the wall of the tubing on the inside and the outside, and obviously I can't get to the inside right now with the engine and everything inside the car, but I figure once I bolt through this, it'll just make that plate more secure, and it'll be included in the bolt, keeping that from trying to flex if it's bolted underneath and on the top of it. That should be very secure. But I will drill those two holes here, this one on this side and the other one on the other side, once I have the engine and transaxle back out of the car. But very happy with the outcome of this. I believe that'll work much better and allow me to adjust the ride height of the car exactly where I want it to be. Take a look at the other one over here. It looks the same, only mirrored. So really happy with this, and the part for the CNC machine, the new stepper motor, should be here in just a couple more days, and we can get started back on the mold, the other half of the mold, which we have this side here finished and laying here just waiting on the other half. But that part should be here in just a couple of days. We can glue these two halves together and make a mold and get started on the next part. But that brings you guys up to speed on what I've been working on my down days, waiting on this part to come from China. And I was able to take care of a couple things I've been putting off for quite some time. And I'm happy to get those done and excited to move on to making another carbon fiber part. So while we take a few minutes here and watch this mold cut, it's running a finishing pass on this other half, or the second half of the rear hatch. I wanted to take a couple of minutes and explain what all I did to get the CNC working again. First thing I did was order a driver for the Z-axis stepper motor. I thought the driver may be going bad or intermittent, and I wanted to replace that first, so I ordered that stepper motor driver, installed it. It did not solve the problem. It was still doing the same thing. So I thought maybe it was a stepper motor, because the stepper motor was making a real high-pitched squealing noise, like maybe the motor was going bad, or it was constantly trying to find the correct position, which would show that maybe the encoder was going bad on the stepper motor. So I ordered a new stepper motor which came with a driver, so I had a matched pair, and installed the stepper motor and driver, and that did not solve the problem. It was still doing the same thing. Next, I thought it might be the wire between the encoder and the motor driver, so I took the ohmmeter and did a continuity check on all 6 wires from end to end, and the continuity check showed all 6 wires to be good. And at the same time I was doing the check, I was taking and shaking the wires, trying to see if I could get one that may be intermittent to act up and give a bad signal or no signal and not show connectivity. And I never did. So I assumed that wire was okay. I moved on trying to find other things. I was running out of ideas. I posted a question on a Facebook CNC user group for people to come up with ideas, maybe to give me to try. I did get a couple of good ideas. One was the power supplies. I am running a separate power supply for each axis, and someone suggested maybe one of the power supplies was going bad. So what I did to test that was I switched the power supplies on the X and the Z axis, which, if it was a power supply problem, would have moved the problem from the Z axis to the X axis, but that did not happen, which told me that it was not a power supply problem. So the only thing left that it could have been was the cable running from the encoder to the motor driver, which I had done the continuity check on and it passed. So a friend of mine gave me some shielded cable to replace that cable with, and I completely cut out the old cable. That cable had two connectors on it, one like a bulkhead connector at the back of the electrical box, and then a 9-pin, I think it's like a D-type or something, like a computer cable that was on a pigtail at the end of near the stepper motor. So it had a stepper motor had a 6 or 9 inch pigtail and then this connector on it, and it was factory installed. So I cut all of those out, ran a wire straight from the stepper motor to the motor driver, and ran some tests. I did an initial test running part of the program, the cut program, with the end mill out of the spindle motor and the spindle motor not turned on. And I ran that program for probably 10 or 15 minutes, and the problem appeared to go away. The machine acted fine. So I rewired, completely removed the old cable, rewired with the new cable, and soldered it to the bulkhead fittings on the electrical box, and started the machine, and everything is working correctly. So there was a problem somewhere in that 6 wire shielded cable. I don't know if it was a bad place in the cable somewhere or one of the two connectors. I didn't take the time to fix it. I guess it's kind of irrelevant where the issue was, but it was somewhere in that link of the chain. I removed all of that and replaced it, and now it is working fine. But as you can see here in this video, the machine is working. It's finishing the final cut pass on the mold, and when that is finished, I'll remove it, take it to the basement, and glue this half of the mold to the half that we cut a few weeks ago, and start trying to finish this mold, getting ready to make another carbon fiber piece. But I guess that's going to be about it for this week's video, and I'll see you guys again in 2 or 3 weeks.